Yeah, this is the C-Town Rivals podcast where each and every week we get after it. We bring you news, notes, we talk about scores, we give some insight to the lay of the land about Chandler High School sports, in particular football. And last week we were over at Podworks Studios. This week we are all back in our respective cribs, so to speak. One of us in Chandler. Adam, where are you?
I'm in downtown Phoenix right now, so
Adam's
not even
Phoenix,
at my crib.
And Ralph is in Charlotte. We're getting it done. Doesn't matter where we are. That's the beauty of it. We can write, we can talk, we can be all over the map. But as long as we get it done for the schools of the city of Chandler, we are certainly doing our job. And we're expanding a bit this week. Yes, our normal teams went 6 wins and 2 losses, but we're going to talk about a 9th team, and I always got to give props to my man, Ralph Amsden. Yes, we say Adam is the founder of something, and we talked about him. Ralph, yes, indeed, you are the founder of the podcast in Arizona Varsity. Good to be rolling with both of you, but we bring in a guy that we get to talk to collectively, and this will be cool. For the first time ever, we bring in the coach of the Chandler Prep Titans, Chris Ator. Coach, how are you, man?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You guys coming off the first ever playoff victory for the Titans, 26-21 over, I'm going to say, a game Alchesay Falcons team. Tell us about that win and what it means to the school and the program, of course.
Yeah, we went in, we hadn't been in the playoffs since 2019, so we kind of went in with our heads held high in that moment. Alchesay came in, they battled us. They were a ground and pound team, but our guys, held steadfast and played well. We had someone else step in at quarterback for us because Cody Dodson was out. So we changed the game plan up quite a bit on offense, but Oliver Rodriguez did a great job. Our defense played well at the end of the game, and we were able to get that first win in school history in the playoffs.
Absolutely. The defense certainly forced some turnovers, and that's big. They say offense wins games, but defense wins championships. This defense, you've mentioned Cody Dodd, obviously Oliver Rodriguez. Tell me about defensively. Who do you have up there?
Yeah, defensively, we're pretty good at all 3 levels. We have our region defensive player of the year, Jack Leonard. He's a senior. He had a few sacks and clutch moments of the game. Joey Busani, he's our leading tackler the last 3 years. He's a junior. And then Aaron Crawford, who's our star on offense. He had a handful of tackles and 2 interceptions at clutch moments as well.
Good stuff. Your next opponent, St. John's. Tell me about that team, what you're seeing from them, but more so the region that you've been in. That's kind of preparing because you guys actually had to go up to Pima in one of those crossover games. That was kind of wacky. That's a non-region game, but it's been a different type of 2A schedule this year.
Yeah, St. John's is a team, that a lot of teams don't want to see on their schedule this year. They're gritty. They're a physical team on both sides of the ball, and they just want to run it, play after play and then get some boot action going. So, they're going to be physical. We have had 2 matchups this year with Santan and with Pima where we've had to play against some physical teams. So going down to Bisbee week 5 was a long trip for us. Going to Pima was a long way. So our guys are used to kind of being on the road. So we're looking forward to getting up there, getting after it on Friday.
Adam,
Coach, is there anything about, not just 2A football, but 2A football when it comes playoff time that you think maybe not a lot of people realize? I think the biggest thing that sticks out to me is, you don't necessarily have as big as these rosters. So a lot of these kids have been go, since the beginning of the year. What is it like going through the process of, keeping them in shape, keeping them healthy, making sure they're resting when they need to, keeping them hydrated? Just what does that look like for you guys, especially in the come playoffs on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis?
Yeah, 2A this year we didn't get a bye week. So we really hit the ground running the first 6 weeks. And we got into region play. We kind of started taping it off practice a little bit, shortening practices or periods at practice, and really focusing on the recovery for the guys. We lift 3 days a week, so 2 of those started being a heavy recovery day because, like you said, the wear and tear on our guys, 10 of our starters on offense are starters on defense. So, they get a lot of reps, so limiting their reps at practice, but making sure they get the important ones is kind of the biggest thing, and then making sure they take care of themselves. So how we recover, how we work out, and kind of what they're putting in their bodies, like you said, just to make sure, they can play further than just 10 weeks in the regular season.
Chris, go.
Oh, I was going to say, Coach, so you bring up the fact that 10 of your starters on offense are starters on defense. Everything I've heard about you from your time in the Chandler Unified School District is that you're not out here running like 8 plays on offense. You actually expect your players to know quite a bit about, what it is to do, and things change from week to week. What have been some of the challenges? Also, know you have to factor in long travel times and other things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's because of having a smaller roster, and we do play fast on offense. We give them a lot on defense. It's just making the most of our practice time. So for us, we do a lot of walk and talk, helping the guys catch up on what we're doing week to week, whether it's offensively or defensively when it comes to scheme-wise, because we don't have the luxury of, 2 platooning guys that just play offense, that just play defense. So it's kind of finding that right mix. Certain weeks we'll do more offensive focus periods at practice, and certain weeks it's more defensive focused.
Chris, I'll say what you guys are doing is just really amazing. I mean, actually, we started this podcast basically around the corner from Chandler Prep. That was at Ralph's old home, and it was just, I can tell you this, sometime I would be ahead of schedule for our timing, and I would sit in the parking lot across the street from the school, just wondering, wow, that school is just so tiny. There was no press box at the time. And then when you and I connected, you were like, hey, you know what? There's actually a press box that's going to be built. And lo and behold, I'd seen it prior, but last week I was walking out of Sweetie's candy store, and there's this big red box across the street, and that's the press box. So, I mean, to see your school just to rise up from really not a whole lot going on to what's happening, it's terrific to see. So props to you, Coach.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Any last words before we let you go? Because we got a lot of schools to talk about, and you got to practice to run.
Yeah, I got one.
Definitely, Ralph. Yeah.
I'm just saying, I used to grocery shop at your school. So, is there any thought to maybe factoring in some of those historic lessons from this historic site, like teaching the team about responsibility, like picking your teammate up is like putting your card away. Don't just leave it out there.
No, I might have to.
Because your football field is it was a grocery store parking lot.
Correct, it was. Yeah, no, I'll factor some of that stuff in for sure when we do our Monday lesson.
No, this is awesome. And I think maybe we lost him. He might have had to jump up. I kind of feel I hear him.
We lost the feed, but I think making lame jokes when he's got a playoff game to prepare for might not have been the way to go.
All good though, but I mean, indeed, it is. I mean, as much as I go deep with that school, Ralph, yeah, like you said, you're even deeper because that was a grocery store parking lot. So no, it's but no, just the expansion of the way the podcast and the teams are going. It's really good to see. They got a tough one at St. John's, but hey, you never know. And the fact that they already have a playoff win under their belt is something that the rest of these podcast teams are striving for. So we'll go with the Seton Catholic Sentinels, and regular season complete. They fall to the Chrisman Rattlers 34-13. Adam, while Patrick Conley put up a show early, they indeed lost to a better team.
Yeah, and this is a Crimson team, I think, that's had a lot of great moments this season, and I'm really excited to see what they do in the playoffs. Listen, I had initially thought Seton was going to have a lot more success this season, jumping down to 3A. But honestly, when you look at it, in the fact that, they've had to face a lot of adversity this year, they've had to have a lot of young guys step up. I just think that it's great to see them in a playoff situation. The fact that, they're going to have a shot. Obviously, they're going to face up against a really, really, really good and talented and gritty Round Valley team, which they've already played once this season. So it's going to be interesting, but nonetheless, I think kudos to some of the things that Seton Catholic has accomplished this year, and making the playoffs is absolutely one of them.
It definitely is. And Ralph, yes, I agree with Adam. I think we thought that their record would be a little bit better than 4-6, especially dropping down, but they battled some injuries over the course of the year. They realized that 3A it's tough, especially the region they were in. I think that's a big factor. But overall, I mean, hey, what they did, they're going to go down swinging if they go down at all this week.
That's what you have to do. You have to have a nothing to lose mentality, because the truth of the matter is you were in the playoffs because your schedule was brutal. You're not in the playoffs because of anything you did. And like, you know, that's a message that I want Seton Catholic's players to hear and be motivated by, that you're in the playoffs because you got rolled down a hill by a few of these different teams, Round Valley included. So you have absolutely nothing to lose. Nobody's out here afraid of the Seton Catholic Sentinels anyway, but let's talk about some of the actual facts about this rematch. Seton Catholic was, by the time they woke up, it was 21-0. This was, I believe, Corey Edwards' first major varsity action. I think his first varsity start at running back. He's had a lot of success since then. You know, so I think that it's going to be an opportunity for the running game to do something that they didn't do the first time around, which is move the ball at all. You know, they responded with a late touchdown in the second quarter and then gave up a touchdown immediately. And so, you know, how do you respond? You return the kickoff after halftime, you return for a touchdown to make it a 2-score game. But then their drive lasts less than 2 minutes before they come down and they score on you as well. So, you know that Brody Chick is hard to tackle. You know that Cage Finch is, you know, can move around in the backfield, and you know that they can hit 40-plus yard field goals. You know everything you need to know about this team. They haven't changed. They've been very strong all year long. But you also know this. They can have a bad day, and they did against Blue Ridge. Maybe you play your best game on the day that they play their worst. To me, this is the favorite to make the championship game. Not even Valley Christian, to make the championship game out of that side of the bracket. So, to me, you're playing the best team on your side. It's a team you know, and the thing you know about yourself is you're a lot more ready for this now than you were at the beginning of the season. Go out, give it your best shot, and we'll see what happens.
That's actually a good point. No, this is a different type of Seton team, and yes, one that learned from their mistakes, and yes, they certainly do have to come with it. The Valley Christian Trojans, they earned the number 2 seed after defeating ALA Ironwood 49-20, regular season complete at 9-1. Ralph, we know that 3A is tough, but I'll say Jake Peterson's team looks every bit as good as one of the 2, if not one of the 3 best teams in the conference.
Yeah, the thing I really liked about last week is you had back-to-back weeks where Austin Schuder had completed less than 10 passes. He really only had the opportunity to throw 12 times. You knew that this game was probably going to be a blowout win, but he has to get reps because you're preparing for the playoffs. So you go out, you let him throw 22 times, and he throws for 354 yards and 7 touchdowns. 30% of his touchdown passes on the season come in that final game. Well, that should give him a really big confidence boost, because over the last previous 4 games, he had thrown 8 picks. So I think for Austin Schuder's confidence, this was an extremely important game. He has also, about midway through the season, figured out what he can do with his legs. He had in the last 5 games, Austin Schuder had 3 games where he had more than 110 yards rushing.
That's big.
And it's huge. And against ALA Ironwood, he was moving around to over 400 yards of total offense came from your quarterback. I think that's the best possible place to be heading into playoffs, where if your quarterback's not on, you're not on. So this is going to be a big moment for Austin Schuder to prove himself. And I thought they gave him every opportunity to have that confidence going into the playoffs with the way they called the game against ALA Ironwood.
And Adam, it's fair to say that the Trojans' goal is to not only start the season against Sabino, but end Sabino's season on Friday night.
Yeah, and kind of just poor Sabino. You got to drive up to Valley Christian 2 times in the same year and face a really good team that I think is a lot more complete than they were the first time. I think going back to this Sabino Valley Christian game, it was honestly a very sloppy game between both teams. Sabino found some areas to succeed in the run, yet they turned the ball over a lot. Valley Christian, this is Austin Schroeder's first time getting the start. He also dealt with some issues when it came to interceptions, but I think Ralph made a great point. Austin Schroeder's confidence has to be in an all-time high right now, coming off a game, throwing 7 interceptions, and you really look at what he's done throughout the year. He's got over 2,200 yards of offense, 23 touchdowns, and only 11 interceptions for making your first, career varsity start this season. And for Valley Christian, playing in every single game, figuring out what you can and, what you are and aren't able to do. Obviously, he's really developed in the run game. I think Valley Christian right now has hit a special moment where they have had a lot of success in the last couple of games. They've scored a lot of points, but also, too, it really seems like your offense knows what they're doing. And on top of that, your defense has also really had a pretty successful year for the most part. It's been pretty locked in. So I think for Valley Christian, and I wrote about it in Zach Alvira's article for Arizona Varsity, I think Valley out of, between Snowflake and, not Snowflake, why am I blank? Ben Franklin. Besides Ben Franklin and Valley Christian, I think Valley Christian has by far the toughest path. It's because one of those teams they could possibly run into is Round Valley. They could also, run into Seton if things go a certain way. You could either run into a team like Blue Ridge or Crimson, or, even in the next game, Gilbert, Christian, or Payson. I think that encapsulates just how competitive 3A has been this year. And really on any given night, any team could beat you if you don't bring your A game. And I think right now Valley Christian is that team that has its A game. I think they are hitting strides at the right time, but it's the playoffs. It's when everybody's 0-0, and so everybody's going to be gutting for you. And for that reason, I think Valley Christian is going to have the toughest challenge when it comes to this playoff run. But I think you can kind of give them the advantage or call them the favorite in most of those matches right now, if you will.
Absolutely. The region indeed has prepared Valley Christian for a nice run. And yes, it was a close opener. 18-14, Valley Christian was your winner. The ACP Knights, regular season over. We'll definitely make that clear. They fall to Campo Verde 32-27. They end up 8-2. I'll say I'm not sure how Campo Verde is just 6-4 on the year. I mean, they were really good. They were strong. They used Jonah Lubno, the big quarterback, very, very well. They stretched the field. They really put in that running game and made it very effective. Brody Stickle, he ran for over 100 yards. Really game well played by Max Ragsdale's crew over at Campo Verde. I was very impressed. But still, 311 passing yards by Evan Heinrich. Kyle Poole, 5 catches for 122 yards and 2 touchdowns. The game came down to essentially the final play. I mean, it was 32-27. Campo Verde decides, hey, you know what? We're in the red zone, less than 30 seconds left. Let's kick the field goal. ACP blocks the field goal, but on that play, they were called for a face mask, and Campo Verde was able to run out the clock. So even without a running game, Ralph, ACP was able to come back with some good weapons and overall, and something we talked about with Derek Zellner, they use everybody. They are comfortable in using not so much RB1 or RB2, RB1A and 1B. This is a complete team.
Every single year I have to be reminded of some of these high school rules. So you can't, and this is not to say that Campo Verde didn't outright beat Arizona College Prep, not blaming it on one play. But I'm just verifying with you because you were there in person. You can advance a blocked field goal?
You can.
As the offense?
Yes. And see, the reason why the penalty was called is, yes, they blocked the kick. It ricocheted back into the possession of a Campo Verde player. And as he was trying to advance it, a face mask was called.
And it was, I saw it, like clear face mask.
Yes. But
yeah,
yes, that's what the explanation was.
Okay.
That because it ended back up in the Coyotes' possession and they were trying to move the ball, they were technically still on offense.
So, yeah, here's what I'll say. There is a nasty, nasty defense over there at Campo Verde. Jake Jones is a monster. I think he's a Washington State commit. There are a lot of good players over there at Campo Verde. They were able to retain possession for a lot of this game by running the ball, and Arizona College Prep was not able to. The encouraging thing about what happened with ACP in this game is that even though you rushed for -3 yards as a whole on the game, when you factor in sack yardage, is that Evan Heinrich was able to throw for over 300 yards, which means in a pinch, he can do it. He can do it all. So, a fantastic regular season comes to a close for Evan Heinrich. I'm sure he would have loved to not have to deal with injury. I'm sure he would have loved that, his interception streak didn't come to an end, or his interception-free streak didn't come to an end against Notre Dame Prep. But overall, 5-2 as a starter has him set up with the number 7 seed in the playoffs. And I think Adam Beadle will tell you it's going to be a tough road, but they can do it.
Indeed, Adam. Yes, I'll say at the beginning of the season, I did not expect that they would not necessarily the first round bye, but the 7th seed. I mean, there were so many questions, and they started to answer those questions in week 2, and they continued to answer those questions as you've seen up close, Adam.
Yeah, and I think so. And I think the key for ACP now is just to make sure you keep your foot on the gas. I think what we might be seeing now is we see ACP drop 2 of its final 4 games, obviously to a Campo Verde team that I think is extremely underrated. They've had to face some tough circumstances this year and play some opponents when they were really at their best. But now this is an ACP team that has eventually found their way to a first-round bye here at the 7th seed, and it's going to be pretty much a gauntlet. You're going to likely face a team in Cactus Shadows in the first round, which is a very run-heavy team. And as we see from this Campo Verde game, ACP really struggled against the run. And we know what Donovan Dixon is capable of at Cactus Shadows, and we also know he can throw the ball. So I think it'll be a great first test for ACP in the first round. So again, this is all assuming Cactus Shadows gets the win over Tucson, which I'm kind of predicting here is going to happen. But it's going to be very interesting. And for ACP too, we know we talk about Evan Heinrich, but another thing I'll talk about that I've said week after week after week, the reason why, the undermining reason why ACP has been so successful this season is because they have really gotten it going on the run. And against Campo Verde, they did not do that. They didn't get even close. Only -3 yards on the run against Campo Verde, which probably is the first time, I'm willing to guess it's the first time ACP has had negative yardage on the run in its short, 5A history. So the key for this is for everybody to, kind of keep their foot on the gas, offensive line to stay sharp up front, open up some holes, and that allows the passing game to open up as well. I think ACP is going to be tested, as they kind of run this gauntlet on the side of the bracket in the 5A playoffs, and it's going to be really interesting to see what happens.
And we'll definitely preview that game deeper once we know the opponent. A bunch of the ACP players, actually as many as they can, Derek Zellner told me, they're going to try to get up there and watch in person who their opponent is, because you can certainly watch things on film, but there's so many more things that you can see and pick out when you're watching your opponent's game in person. So we'll see who their opponent is next week, but great to see that the Knights have the bye. The Casteel Colts, they shut out the Queen Creek Bulldogs 27-0. First shutout of the Joe Bushman era. First as a team since September 15th, 2023. Adam, this was a fantastic game as we see Casteel jump up to the number 10 spot in the Open. 2 interceptions, a fumble recovery, defense flying all over the place. 3 different ball carriers rushed for touchdowns. T. Martin, essentially 10 yards per passing attempt. That's nice. I'd say job well done.
Yeah, absolutely. And how about Casteel and Joe Bushman possibly getting an opportunity to get into the Open Division play in his first year as head coach? We know Casteel has done some special things in the past, but this would truly be a special thing if they are able to do that. And it comes up against a team that's maybe just on just as hot of a run as they are right now. AOA Queen Creek has been dominating teams recently. They've really hit their stride. They have their transfers available. They've looked like a completely different team from the first half of the season. And I know we've talked about how great T. Smith has played in these last few games, but how about this this Casteel defensive line against Queen Creek? 2 interceptions and 8 sacks and just what feels like they are playing in just a really good form of football right now. I think that this Queen Creek ALA, or I keep saying Queen Creek, this Casteel ALA Queen Creek matchup is maybe going to be one of the most fun Arizona high school football matchups we've seen all season long.
Ralph, this Casteel team, 6 wins so far, and there'll be more than likely at least one more. They only got 6 wins total last year and the year before. So Bushman has stepped in, and I'm going to say he has moved the needle. He has gotten off that 6-win business, and they're looking for more. And yeah, the fact that they have a chance to be in the Open, yes, it's an expanded Open, but still it is the Open. Your team is in green right now on that AZ Preps thing. So no, that's awesome. You're on mute, Ralph.
Probably a good thing. There's this little dirty secret in college football. Everybody always says that when you bring in a new coach, that most people expect a 3-year build, right? So you have a guy like Jed Fish go to Arizona, and by year 3, he has them in the top 25 from being winless, before he got there, and even like losing to an FCS school in NAU. So everybody claims to have a certain level of patience, but the truth of the matter is the number one indicator that a head coach is going to be successful at any one stop is their ability to make an immediate culture shift and make an immediate impact felt in year 1. Now, you can't be dismissive of what Casteel accomplished last year, even though that there was some dysfunction within the coaching ranks that led to a suspension at the end of the year. That is a team that won a 6A playoff game, and it deserves respect. But was it trending in the right direction? And what was performance versus expectation? Expectation this year was that this was going to be that building year where maybe Casteel, got run over a few times, but you're instituting and implementing the eventual culture that's going to lead to a successful program 2 or 3 years down the road. Nothing gets people excited like a coach coming in right away and winning. Nothing. It's the same reason people are fired up at Mesa. It's the same reason, to have a coach come in and make an immediate impact is huge for morale, for participation, for the consideration of 8th graders who have every option. I know Casteel is a junior high attached, but 8th graders still have every option in the world as to where it is they're going to go to school. And what they're going to see at Casteel is lower numbers, which means opportunity and immediate success. It's going to create buy-in from people who weren't even part of the program going in. And then the trick becomes to sustain that. So Joe Bushman has pulled off one of the things that is actually a huge key to building sustained success at any destination. And, T. Smith deserves a ton of credit. Like we talked about last week, when he got there, it really unlocked Brody Smith, in my opinion. This is somebody who had just played a couple of games before T. Smith took over at quarterback. Gunnar Choi did a great job. But, once you have T. Smith take over, he goes from 8 total catches on the season to 7 in one game. And then the next week, 116 yards, 2 touchdowns. And the next week, almost 100 yards receiving and a touchdown. And last week, 6 catches, 89 yards against Queen Creek. He is somebody that you have to account for at all times. So not only have T. Smith, you have Brody Smith that have emerged as the season has gone on, which means that this is also a program that can develop people. And so it's just everything is trending in the right direction for Casteel. There's not whispers of discontent or this isn't fun or we're winning, but at what cost, or we're catering to any, star player here or there. This is a program that really seems to, for the first time in a while, have a cohesive culture all moving in the same direction.
It's a lot of fun being over there. It really is. It's definitely enjoyable. Adam, as you said, that ALA Queen Creek Casteel game, that's big because you win the 8th grade if you win that game. I mean, you've got neighborhood kids and all of that stuff. I mean, the 2 schools are around the corner, and it's like, all right, hey, who do I want to go to? So now that's good stuff. Indeed, the Colts are in a very, very good position. The Perry Pumas, they go down to Tucson and knock off the Salpointe Catholic Lancers 21-7 to up their mark to 5-4. Talon Frazier and Kyle Snyder, they had a couple of short touchdown runs, and Justin Stella with a pick six early in the game. That opened up the scoring. One of the words that Coach Ortiz used when I asked him about this victory, he said needed. He said this was one that we really needed, and it's great. They got the win. They're at the number 13 slot. Ralph, it was needed. It's good for them to get that solid road win, and we know they got a bear in front of them, no pun intended, and we'll talk about that later on in the show. But, yeah, solid road win for Coach Ortiz and crew.
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys have seen the clip, but that Cale Snyder touchdown run, truck stick at the goal line, if Perry had a highlight package that they played before every single game, even though that got flagged for a 15-yard penalty, that play is going to lead the highlight package. And this is a school that has had some really good quarterbacks that have led them to 6A championship games. So one of the cooler moments, you like to see a quarterback that has not necessarily struggled, but like the schedule has been tough. There's been some adversity, and you kind of see all the frustration and everything taken out on that one play. It's important to have a win at this point in the season. It's also extremely important that they were able to have some success on the ground, no matter where it comes from. Because the frustrating thing for this Perry team has to be being 9 games into the season and only averaging 100 yards on the ground per game. That's a tough place to be as a 6A team that doesn't even have a 300-yard rusher on the roster. Maybe Cale Snyder would be there if sack yardage wasn't, subtracted out. But on the season right now, he's sitting at about 38 yards rushing. A lot of what has had to be done has been done through the air. And I think any quarterback will tell you they're a very different player if they're supported by the running game. It opens up absolutely everything. Perry has not been able to run the ball as well as they have needed to this year. And so, a lot has fallen on this quarterback. Now, the defense has, in my opinion, been doing some really, really positive things. I want to give a shout out to Sean Camping and his 9 tackles for a loss on the season. And Salpointe was only 3 of 12 on third down conversions. Right. And the other thing, when we talk about the things that you need to be successful in high school football, you got to be able to run the ball. That's number one. It helps to have a quarterback, but we've seen so many teams with, decent high school quarterbacks go on to play in championship games because the run game is there, because you can hold the ball and be more physical. And the other thing you need to do is to be able to create turnovers. They have caused 2 fumbles on the entire season. So, to be 5-4 at this point in the season without a run game and without the ability to manufacture turnovers is really big. That means that there are some really positive elements in place for this Perry team, and would love to see them put it all together and have their best game of the season in this rivalry game coming up.
Adam, this Perry team uses a lot of guys. A lot of guys get touches in this past game. 12 different ball carriers, 8 different receivers. They've got weapons, but yes, they're still trying to put it all together.
Yeah, and I think the big part of that is Cale Snyder being on his A game. I know he probably didn't have the performance he would have wanted to in this game against Salpointe Catholic. And I just watched that clip of that touchdown they got called back where he just threw his shoulder. Pretty nasty work there by Cale. But I'm with Ralph here. I think it would be really great to see Perry come to its best form and being able to bring the intensity on both the offense and defensive side of the ball in this game against Basha.
Absolutely. Indeed, the 8-1 Basha Bears are up next. We'll preview that very, very shortly. Yeah, folks, this is the C-Town Rivals podcast, and we're back in our respective homes. In a couple of weeks, we'll be back at the Podworks studios, but we'll keep it rolling as the Chandler Wolves, yes, they roll over the Pinnacle Pioneers. I shouldn't really say roll over. They rolled to victory 28-22. Will Mencl, 338 passing yards and a touchdown. He also ran for a couple of scores. Ralph, this team has been money all year long. They spread the ball around. They picked off Jackson Reeder a couple of times. And when you win the fourth quarter 14-0, you are going to win most games.
Yeah, especially when you win the fourth quarter 14-0 after falling down 15-0. I mean, this was I probably got text messages from people I haven't, heard from in a really, really long time who started paying attention to Chandler because they were good again, because we live in a little red hen society where people show up to eat the bread. They don't want to be there to bake it. They don't want to be there to harvest the wheat, but they'll show up to eat the bread. So all of a sudden people are paying attention to Chandler again. And the first time they pay attention, they see that the Wolves are down 15-0 to
Pinnacle.
to Pinnacle. And so I'm getting all these text messages like, what's wrong with him? Is it, were we tricked? And I was like, just wait. Like, this is not a bad team that Chandler's going up against. Dana Zupke has had some absolute barn burners with the Wolves in the past. And this was probably the most necessary thing to happen for Chandler because they are playing some cupcakes. I'm trying not to be cruel, but they have had some games that they're not going to see in the playoffs.
Correct.
So this was extraordinarily important. You put Will Mencl in a stressful situation where he has to throw the ball 37 times. He does not throw an interception. They shut down the run game. Chase Ochoa only gets 4 carries. Will Mencl has to do a lot with his feet as well. And so you put your quarterback in the most stressful possible situation. He finds Skylar Armida 12 different times, none for longer than 17 yards, but he's starting to figure out who his go-to guys are. They took away Jai Jones. I think he had 1 catch on the day, and he's still
– it was a big one.
Yeah, it was a very big one, but he still finds a way to throw for 250 yards, 260 yards outside of that. So, and then compliments to the defense who kept them in this game. You fall down early, then you have a guy like Austin Reese take over and is all over the field, 11 solo tackles, and you get an interception from Kamari Crawford as well as Austin Reese. So I'm proud of Chandler in this game, but this is the type of stuff that happens when you got a lot of games mixed in that don't give you that higher level competition. All of a sudden, things get turned up a notch and you get back on your heels. It's all about how you respond, and I think that Chandler responded very well.
Adam, I really like this team. Paint a broad picture of this squad, strengths, weaknesses. I mean, they're, for all we say, they are just 1 point away from perfection. It's great.
Yeah, and I actually wanted to bring up this quote from head coach Ty Wisdom that he told Richard Obert after the game. In his article in AZ Central, he said, quote, "Our guys are resilient. That's the biggest thing with this group. They're not coming off to the sideline panicking." And I think that's really a big takeaway because this is really the first time this season we've seen this Chandler team really face some really tough adversity and force them to be super resilient. I know they were, neck and neck with Centennial in that first game of the season. Obviously, they go to California and play another close game. But this is the first time Chandler has really been down and needing to come back and get a lot of help. And, when you have a quarterback like Will Mencl, who has executed almost to near perfection all season long, the amount of touchdowns he's thrown, his ability to get so many receivers involved in the game, the ability to get it on the run. And then Chandler too, I think coming in and really relying on your defense for the first time this season, maybe since that Centennial game, and them coming in and getting, those turnovers in the fourth quarter, which really helped seal the deal for Chandler, help Will Mencl to find the end zone, I think is key. So I think it's great Chandler faced a test like this heading into such a tough game against Hamilton. And I think it'll, really just help kind of boost them and help them figure out what it is they need to accomplish in practice this week and, just heading into the playoffs as a whole. But this is a group that is really well-rounded. They're well-coached, I think, especially not just Ty Wisdom, but all the other assistants on that staff. And there's so many moving parts of this team. And it's exciting to see how they were able to fight back and, what they could potentially do here in the playoffs.
The Wolves indeed currently hold the number 4 seed. The Basha Bears, they outscore the Mesa Jackrabbits 41-33. They improved to 8-1 on this season. This was a game that I think the Bears also needed. They got back on track offensively, and so what Jake Rogers can do. 332 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. Yeah, he was picked off twice, but we know that he can move the ball downfield. Cash Brock was living proof of that. 5 catches, 124 yards, and 2 scores. Noah Roberts finally got loose in the backfield, as well as Joshua Gaines. Really good to see, Adam, as they defeated Bishop Montgomery East.
Wow,
Man,
okay.
I was not ready for that.
Wow, I was not expecting that. Wow. Okay.
Funny's funny.
Back on the topic of Basha. Yeah, it's great to see Jake Rogers kind of, I think it took him a while to kind of get accumulated in this role. Basha's offense had a little bit of a slow start in this game. And so did the defense too, honestly. It just kind of felt like I watched this game for a little bit on Max Preps, or not on Max Preps, on the Basha Bear Network. And to me, it just felt like Basha was still kind of, coming out a little slow after that loss to Hamilton. It looked like they'd been shaken up just a little bit. And to see a team like Mesa or Bishop Montgomery East, as Brett likes to call it, come out and I think came out with a little bit more of a fire than Basha was expecting them to, and were playing harder. And really the key of this one was Noah Roberts finally breaking free for a big touchdown run. And I think that's going to be the key for Basha, is continuing to get Noah Roberts involved in the game plan. I'm not sure how much, what Basha is doing offensively, switches with Brody Veers being, I don't know how much that really affects the game plan. But to see them still be able to come out and get a lot of points on the board is huge. But it's going to create a situation where, this matchup against Perry could be exciting.
Ralph, the one thing that we've noticed with Basha is the quarterback play tends not to drop. Obviously, nobody is going to just replace DeMond Williams. And when Brody Veers stepped up, you know what? The Basha Bears still had somebody of quality under center. He's his own guy. Veers is out right now. And indeed, Jake Rogers, he showed that he can get the job done. So still very steady. And it was good to see them score the 41 points, because they're going to need points come postseason.
Yeah, there's a couple of things about this game. Number one is I think that Basha could have run away with it if they had just committed outright to the run game. But that this is the quarterback that you're going to have in your playoff run, and you're trying to win the Open Championship. So you're in a tricky situation. You have to tailor your game plan to develop and make your quarterback more comfortable, potentially at the expense of the game being a little closer than you want it to be. Mm-hmm. Not committing to the run game gave Mesa a lot of opportunities on offense on a night when Basha's defense just emotionally didn't have it. They really didn't. Yeah. And Basha won this game because the defense stepped up in red zone situations. There are 4 different occasions where Mesa scored on field goals. This is just like Perry, forcing 4 field goals. Mesa, once they figure it out, they might be able to put up a lot of points. But in this occasion, they hit all 4 of their field goals. They all came in the first half. Mesa scored 5 times on Basha before halftime. And that's a lot to digest, right? Mm-hmm. So, but you did need to make sure that you had some confidence in your quarterback. You knew who he could check down to. You have Noah Roberts with 7 catches for 105 yards and a touchdown. But the 38 pass attempts, I feel like that was incredibly intentional. The 2 interceptions and putting your defense in situations to have to respond to that, I think only help, especially getting the win, only helps Basha in the long run. So they got away. They got away with one, and respect to Mesa for the effort that they that they have put in. I thought they played a really, really great game. And they probably walked away from this one thinking that they let one get away. But again, if it really came down to it, Basha can look at the fact that they averaged 10 yards a carry and say, all right, we know we have this one thing down. This other thing is the most important thing right now, and that's getting Jake Rogers ready to go on a playoff run.
That's fair, and they certainly will need a healthy quarterback. The Hamilton Huskies, they're back to toying with people. 63-0 over Cesar Chavez. They're now 9-0. First off, what I like about this, it was a shutout. They blanked Val Vista as well earlier in the year. Yeah, they're the two worst teams in the region, but Hamilton not playing around on defense. It wasn't, oh, hey, let's just pull our starters or whatever. It's like, hey, you know what? This team should be put away early. We're going to score early and often, and they did just that. What can Brown do for you? Jacob Brown, 124 yards and 2 touchdowns. Roy Oliver, yeah, he was the leading receiver, but he did not find the end zone, but that's okay. 5 other receivers did. And Ralph, you actually have to flash back to 2020 to find the last time that Hamilton had 2 shutouts in the same year.
That's insane.
Yes.
That's really crazy to think about. This was a game I watched because at this point we're just on Roy Oliver record watch, and shout out to Cesar Chavez for shutting Roy down, holding him to 84 receiving yards. Roman gets 2 touchdown receptions in the first half, and then Jax Sculley becomes the first quarterback in Hamilton history to go over 40 touchdown passes in a season. We consider their history; it's pretty incredible. I do have a couple of things to say because this was a blowout, so they got some guys in that they don't usually get in, and also a couple of things happen that don't usually happen. So, want to give a shout out to Preston Olson. That is Hamilton's kicker. He is a sophomore. Make sure you are icing your foot, son. This is the 3rd time this year he's had to kick 8 extra points or more. And I'm afraid this kid's foot is going to fall off his leg. The other thing is Christian Riley. Now, Christian Riley has 4 catches this year for 154 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Isn't that crazy?
It's the most insane statistic. And he's just a junior. And the cool thing about this game is 80% of your receiving yards came from guys who have the ability to come back next year and the year after. So, Hamilton might be a problem for a really long time. And you know that you're in a great place as a team when one of your backup receivers is averaging 40 yards a catch and a touchdown every time he touches the ball.
Yeah, they're in a good place, Adam. What you got for us? Give us your Husky report.
Well, I'm going to be honest and talk about the shutting down, as I think we kind of all know why Roy Oliver didn't find the end zone in this game and break the record is because Hamilton's hoping that he does it in the next game against another team that they don't like and want to beat. And so I'm looking forward to that and seeing if that happens. But other than that, got to shout out Jax Sculley for breaking the passing record at Hamilton with 41 touchdown passes. There's been a lot of elite quarterbacks that have come through Hamilton the last couple of years, and to see him be the guy to break that record is truly special. I think there are a lot of special things on the horizon for Jax Sculley and this offense, as Ralph talks about the returning wide receivers coming back, including Roman Oliver, the little brother of Roy Oliver, who had the most receiving touchdowns in this game with 2. And also defensively, it seems like the Huskies just are getting better and better every week. And it'll be interesting to see if they are at full strength against Chandler. Not sure, up in the air about the possibility of Bo Jandro potentially coming back for this Chandler game. So it's going to be interesting. But Huskies just dominating. And that statistic about them, they've only had 2 shutout games since 2020. Well, what happened in 2020? Hamilton made the state championship. So just dominant from the Huskies and really proving why they're the number 1 team.
Then what happened, Adam?
They lost to Chandler.
Funny.
Sorry. Apologies.
Funny stuff.
Oh, man. My freshman year of high school, that game was it was still COVID, right? So it was like COVID era. We were all wearing masks in the student section. It was just, that state championship game was at Desert Vista. Like, it was just a weird point in time.
It definitely was. Let's hop back over to Val Vista. Perry against Basha. I mean, my initial thoughts are, the Basha Bears are the better team. Yes, indeed. Perry is hungry. They want to get that W. My thing, Ralph, is there a path? Obviously, if the Perry Pumas defeat Basha, they're in the open. There's no doubt about that. Is there a path for Perry to get in if they lose this game? who else would have to lose? I mean, there's a lot of things that could happen, but we know that they're at number 13. That's just an interesting spot as I look at the rankings. There's some things that would have to go down.
Yeah, I think you're right. So I think the best possible situation for Perry to get in would be the most obvious one. The team in front of them loses. Now, does Higley have a chance to beat Centennial? Yes, they do. So if Higley wins, and even if Perry loses, I think that it's possible because you will have had Perry play Chandler and Basha.
That's fair. Yep.
While Centennial did play Chandler, I don't think they had Basha on their schedule. Did they have Hamilton on their schedule?
No, just Liberty. So yeah.
Or no, they did. They did have Hamilton. So
Centennial had it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to be tough, but they're only separated by 0.4 of a power point.
Right. That's tough.
Casteel losing to ALA Queen Creek would create an opportunity, but I think that spot would probably be filled by ALA Queen Creek because ALA Queen Creek, like Seton Catholic, is getting a ton of credit right now for playing one of the most difficult schedules in their division. So, the question is, would Perry want that? Would you want an opportunity to have to play against a Red Mountain or a Williams Field or something like that?
I think you do, because if you falter, you do go back to your 6A playoffs.
That's true. Yeah, I would say the best thing that you can root for is that you play Basha close, winning you're in. But the best you can hope for is that you play Basha close and Higley takes care of business against Centennial. If you get an assist from Casteel, that'd be huge too. But I think the most likely path is you're looking over to Eddie Zuby out there in the Higley School District and saying, pretty please, can you beat Andrew Taylor?
Indeed. It's, I'll say the one thing, and Adam, and I'll throw it over to you, that I do like about this year, whether it's this podcast, because this time last year, there were 3 people who were going nuts about, well, this team should be in the Open, this shouldn't, and blah, blah. And then Lord knows everybody on social media, with the fact that there's no 5A teams involved, and we're talking strictly about 6A teams getting in. It's a much cleaner playoff system. I'm very, very happy for that. The AI did some tremendous things in getting this Open right.
I think it makes our lives a little bit less stressful, just trying to figure out all these different scenarios for how there's teams that, probably will all lose in the first round, making the Open, and just how it just kind of sucks. And we wish it was a certain way. Now it is a certain way where it's all 6A teams. And I think there's a really great system for how things can fall. I'm with Ralph. I think the only way for Perry to get in to the Open is winning over Basha or Centennial loss. Heck, I think there, could maybe even be a scenario where if Casteel loses too, they could maybe sneak in, just because of ALA Queen Creek's strength of schedule and who they beat and yada yada yada. I still think that ALA Queen Creek is just going to be it's going to be literally down to the wire if they're going to make the Open, but they're not one of our teams. But regardless, looking at this game, the Battle of Val Vista, I look at this game and I look at 2 things. First off, I look at Perry. I think you come into this game and honestly aren't really going to know essentially what Basha is going to run because of Jake Rogers being at quarterback, right? I think we saw Noah Roberts get a lot more involved last week. So if Basha decides to, shake it up for the last game of the year and really go run heavy and feed Noah the ball out, or they decide to stick to kind of their game plan with, opening the passing game and making sure they can get a lot of guys involved, Cash Brock being one of those guys, I think, Basha kind of has the upper hand here when it comes to scheming this and game planning for this game, although it's a rivalry game. And I think especially you look at what happened in that Basha Perry game last year, where Perry was in this game until, the fourth quarter. I know there was the whole penalty thing. And that was last year, right? With all the penalties.
Last year. Yep,
yeah,
last year.
With all the penalties, kind of snafu, whole problem with that. So in a rivalry game, the records and the talent, and obviously the talent doesn't go out the window, but the expectations kind of go out the window because both teams want to win this game so bad. And I think for the battle in Val Vista, that matters more than any other of the rivalry games this year.
Chandler, Hamilton, Battle of Arizona Avenue. I'll give my 2 cents. I'll say for Chandler, they can't have any 15-yard penalties. I mean, you might be able to get away with one, but you can't have multiple 15-yarders, personal fouls, etc. You just can't give the Huskies free 15 yards consistently. That has to just not happen. Kind of like in previous championship games, and it seems like it was always like a tight end. They need like an unsung hero to step up, whomever it may be, somebody who we haven't really given a lot of props to, somebody just different who is going to be a difference maker. And that ground game, I think in this case, Will Mencl can't be your leading rusher. So those are my keys for the Chandler Wolves to win the game. If you're the Hamilton Huskies, you just keep doing what you're doing. As long as you have multiple receivers touch the ball, you don't have to have 10 different receivers. But if you've got 5 or 6 guys touching the ball, that means you are constantly moving the ball downfield. That means the running game was probably working. And those are kind of my thought process on what we'll see on Friday night. Adam?
Yeah, I think for Chandler, obviously you can't go down 15-0 like you did last week against a Hamilton team, because if that happens, Hamilton will stomp you in the face. And so I think the keys for Chandler is to get out to a quick start, get points up the board, keep this one competitive. Your defense is probably going to have to play its most complete and best game it's played all season long. I think the defensive line is really going to have to step up in this one. This Hamilton offensive line is I think one of the most untalked about parts of this Husky team and how well they have played this season, providing plenty of time for Jax Sculley in the pocket, providing open run lanes for guys like Jacob Brown, Skylar Cole, Devontae Roebuck. So that's going to be the key for Chandler. For Hamilton, let's do what you do all season. Get Roy all over the football. Get Roy all over the ball in the end zone. And in terms of selection, I might have been able to, pick Basha over the Huskies, but I'm not going to make that mistake with the Huskies playing against the Wolves. So I think the Huskies are going to come out, make a statement, and win big in this one.
Mr. Ralph.
Yeah, I mean, on what you had to say about the playoffs, I'll say this. We went from the potential to punish success to limiting the opportunities for success. One is clearly a million miles better of a scenario to exist in. I think that if you are one of the best teams in the state, you should have the opportunity to play 14 games. With the way that we have been handling things, we have taken that away from these teams. I think that that's unnecessary, but I would much rather have a situation that we're in right now than putting teams in a situation where they've never even had the opportunity to compete for their own division championship.
Mm-hmm.
But one good year puts them up against our Chandler Unified School District teams, which I'm going to be honest, Brett, we've had this podcast for 13 years because things are different in the CUSD. And I don't want to see a Gila Ridge or a Corona del Sol or a Marana Tigers be told by some formula that they are better than a Chandler Unified School District team, then have that team come to their house and kick their teeth in and end their very special once-in-a-generation season after 11 games. Never going to feel like a bad guy for wanting teams to have the opportunity to at least first compete at their level and see what they can do from there. This is a better situation. And lo and behold, in this better situation, look who's right back at the top. The Chandler Unified School District.
Preach on
Here
it.
we are again. Here we are again. So you can say all you want about, well, what does your championship even mean unless you're out there competing with the best? Buddy, I've seen Page play. I've seen Valley Christian play. They don't belong on the same field as Roy M.F. Oliver and Jax Sculley. They just don't. But you know who does? The Chandler Wolves. And I'm telling you, Brett, I disagree 1,000,000%. They need all the 15-yard penalties they can get. Go out there, set the tone, break every rule imaginable, get yelled at by Ty Wisdom. It's all going to be worth it in the end. The only way that you get this win is you go out there and play Chandler Wolves football, which is to commit as many mistakes as you do explosive plays. You gotta step back 15 yards to go forward 45. And I will say that the best hope for Chandler is that you got to look your offense in the eye and you got to say, we're not worried about anything that happens on the other side of the ball. We are going out there to do our job. And if the defense at some point can make a play, that'll be really helpful. But when we have the ball in our hands, we have to get things done. And if you're Hamilton, you got to day by day this thing. You really do, because you are so good. You are so good. You're averaging 21 points a game in the second quarter alone. You're averaging 35 in the first half. You are, and you have proven over the course of the season, the big bad team on the block. Anyone who says that they're number one, I'm not one of them, but anybody who says that they're number one, they are completely justified in doing so. You have to tell yourself this is just another game. You have to. You cannot get lost in the emotion of the fact that this is the battle for Arizona Avenue until after this game is over and it's all zeros on the clock. Because you start thinking about the fact that it's Chandler Hamilton and that for the last 10 years they've had the edge on you that you had on them the 10 years before that, then you might not play up to the standard that you're used to. So for Hamilton, I say take this the same way that you take every single game. And for Chandler, I say go out there and wild out and act like a bunch of boys off Oakland Street.
I'm cool with that. Is it fair to say that all 4 top seeds are essentially locked in?
I believe so. Basha being at 3 makes me wonder that if Perry does the impossible and
Basha's
Red
at
Mountain.
2. Basha's at 2 right now.
Oh, Basha's at 2. Then yeah, I don't think so. There's 6 points separating Red Mountain and Basha. Yeah, never mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
never mind.
Yeah, no, I think
they're locked in.
I think we've the top 4 has been the same for a while, and I see nothing changes that regardless of who wins or loses.
Are you ballsy enough as a Chandler or Hamilton head coach to do a Chaparral Saguaro and say we're locked in? There's absolutely no reason for us to go hard in the paint in this game. No, obviously, people lost their job over that, but like,
no, I think you go hard because you got bye week.
Okay,
you got absolutely.
I think Hamilton's going to try to put up more points than they have all season long in this game. I really do.
For you brought up Roy Oliver breaking the record against Chandler. He would need 5 touchdown catches in this game, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, "Oh God!" But it's possible.
It is possible.
Like that sounds absurd in any other situation with any other player, but it is possible.
Very true. Well, fellas, we had another good show. We got Chris Ator to join us, the head coach of the Chandler Prep Titans. Terrific way to start the show, and obviously terrific way for us to end the show talking about the Battle of Arizona. Next time we get together, we will have nothing but playoffs to talk about. In the meantime, he's Ralph Amsden. He's Adam Beadle. I'm Brett Quintyne. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for joining us.
Let's go Chandler Prep.